Welcome to Bae Watch,
your go-to guide for all things romance and dating.
We're diving deep into the modern dating pool.
Tune in on Fridays from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Only on Spirit Live.
Hello. Oh, yeah, I can't hear myself.
Good morning, Baes.
Are we on now?
Yeah, we are.
We're on, guys.
We're on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Should we harmonize that?
Good morning.
Dynamics. Yes.
There's your little sing-song for the morning. Mm-hmm. Except there's going to be another one. Good morning, Baes. Welcome back to the third episode of Bae Watch. I'm Morgan, and of course today I'm joined by my lovely Baes Anne.
That's me.
And Jacqueline.
That's moi.
And Amy. And today our topic is queer dating, a new era of acceptance. So, especially within the current political climate we seem to be drowning in at the moment, an open and constant dialogue surrounding empowering those in the LGBTQ community and destabilizing the powers and ideologies that serve to harm and devalue the community are incredibly important. And I'd like to begin with a little verbal trigger warning before we begin, because we'll be discussing topics that involve violence and discrimination towards the LGBTQ community. So if those are sensitive topics for you, feel free to give this episode a skip, and me and the Baes will see you next week. And I have another content warning for you. All ideas and opinions discussed are our own and do not reflect the views and opinions of Spirit Live. Our episodes may contain intimate topics surrounding romantic language, sex, and sexual preferences, so please be advised our show's content may contain controversial topics and opinions that may be sensitive to listeners. Back to it. We're going to be diving pretty deep into some pretty big topics today. Jacqueline and Amy are going to be kicking it off with some of the super important history that has impacted the modern LGBTQ rights movement. And then...
Rock on!
And then little Bae Anne will take you through the evolution of queer dating from the underground scenes to gaining mainstream acceptance. Then after that, you'll hear a little sing-song, and then I'll be discussing the future of acceptance with a very special guest, our Spirit Live neighbor from Next in Q, Wednesdays at 11 a.m., and good friend, Sarra.
Woo!
Yes. Jacqueline and Amy, are you guys ready to take it away?
Yeah, well said.
Please do.
You start.
I can start, yeah. So today we're just going to be focusing more on like the history of LGBTQ plus, specifically in North America. I feel like we need a much longer episode dedicated if we're going to do like just the whole history. Exactly. Especially with like different countries and different cultures. So firstly, being gay has always been around. Homosexuality dates back to the ancient Greeks, all right? Like, we've seen it in many historical figures like Socrates, Leonardo da Vinci. I did not know this, but he was accused and conspired to be gay and bisexual.
Well, didn't he make the...
Mona Lisa.
There's the, like...
The Mona
Lisa? Didn't he make it, like, a picture of Jesus on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel?
I was going to say, wasn't he just the Sistine Chapel
and the modern,
painter?
like... idea of Jesus as like a long-haired white man was just Da Vinci's lover.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
That's why Jesus is white.
Yeah.
That probably
Because
gave
Leonardo
a
da
clue.
Vinci's gay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why Jesus is white.
Well, the more you know.
Wait, that lost me so...
What?
Something about that lost me so quick. Something about that second part just like really like went whoosh.
Leonardo da Vinci
Is gay.
and he painted the modern idea of Jesus
Yeah.
because he painted a picture of Jesus on the Sistine Chapel,
Right.
and he painted his lover as Jesus.
Right.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So that's why
that.
like the modern image of Jesus is white.
Oh.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
That
So
could
they
be
said.
totally wrong.
No,
But
I think
that makes
sense.
That's the rumor.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was known to be like surrounded himself with a lot of like younger men. That's what I heard. I don't know. And then,
But like how we say we heard this, like we're talking.
heard. My good friend Leonardo. Anyways, so so all of these historical figures: Julius Caesar, Emily Dickinson, Oscar Wilde. And although homosexuality has always been a part of human nature, it has often led to discriminatory and homophobic behavior in certain religions, social and cultural contexts. Homophobia has migrated from the High Middle Ages to the Renaissance, pre-colonization, post-colonization. We honestly didn't see much change until like the 20th century. Rock on. We started to see progress with many gay bars popping up in many different cities. And I want to talk about the Stonewall riots that really changed, I think, the community forever. The Stonewall Inn was a gay bar in New York City. Honestly, all these bars became a place where many like gay men, lesbians, and other members of the LGBTQ community could feel free and interact with each other and feel seen. But police officers would often raid the bars since being gay was still illegal in many of the states, except for Illinois. And basically, the police would raid the bar and arrest employees for selling alcohol without a license. What?
We're just
we're
confused
both
that
really interested in the
Illinois.
Oh, really?
solution to this
that you could
situation.
only be gay in Illinois.
I've never
It was
heard
in
that.
like so from the 1950s to 1960s, homosexuality was illegal in all 50 states except for Illinois.
Yeah.
Illinois was.
That's
I don't
crazy.
Know, I don't know what the difference.
What was going on in
Well,
Illinois?
it's because
I don't
each
know.
state has their own legislature.
Well, yes,
right?
but I'm saying Illinois out of all places.
Out of all places,
Yeah.
Illinois.
Where is
I'm
Illinois?
just like
Is that
impressed
the-
by
Yes.
Illinois,
Yeah.
I guess, or did Illinois just like
Illinois is
It's
in
more
the
up.
northeast.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
north.
So it is in a more progressive area of the states.
right? But I'm
Yeah.
saying it's
Right, but
surrounded,
why?
but it's surrounded by states who are all also
Yeah,
criminalizing
like
it. I'm
Georgia, like
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was like the later 60s that Illinois first legalized it. But
it
Illinois was the first one.
And that
Impressed
also
by you,
though
Illinois.
does not mean that Illinois has
Yeah, that
always
it was,
been
like,
this
good.
progressive
Yeah, I know.
state.
No,
Like
this is a great
it
point.
could also have just come into fruition in like the 40s, even that like they're the only state that legalizes that or like that does incriminate
Yeah.
gay people.
I don't know, but I did find that interesting. But anyways, in New York City, it was still illegal at the time, and this is where the Stonewall Inn resided. But everything changed on June 28th, 1969. The people had enough. They channeled their anger and began to fight back against the police after all these raids in a more aggressive manner to have their voices heard, and thus began the Stonewall riots. These riots were a series of violent confrontations between the police and the gay right activists in response to social discrimination and police harassment against sexual minorities in the 1960s. A black transgender woman named Marsha P. Johnson led the uprising that started the modern gay right movement and put the T in LGBTQ+. Also, I'd like to just mention that every November, because since we're in November, from the 13th to 19th, Transgender Awareness Week helps us remember the issues that the members of the community face. So that's coming up. So just
mark your calendars.
yeah, mark your calendars. And although the police shut down the riots, eventually these riots united the LGBTQ plus community behind a common cause, equal rights. It sparked a powerful movement, setting the stage for future LGBTQ plus rights advancements. It also inspired sexual minorities in Canada, made it all its way to Canada to assert their rights and demand equality. So Canada had decriminalized homosexuality intimacy in 1969 and fully legalized same-sex marriage across the whole country in 2005. And today, the
2005 feels way too late.
No, I know.
Yeah.
It feels
I'm like,
late, but
huh.
also it's like when you think about all
It's-
of the other countries that legalized it,
Yeah.
it was all around the same time.
Yeah, I was also thinking about recently, literally just about Bush and like coming off of like 9/11 and him being reelected after like 9/11 and like the
Yeah.
peace, like war and everything. And part of his thing was also like he was still totally like Obama came after him, right? And was the
Yeah.
person that came in to legalize gay marriage in the States. But Bush was like fully still like
Against it.
against
Yeah.
That's insane.
low key.
Bush was Republican, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should I move on to
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, because, like, after that, this is basically goes, like, it started, people were like, oh, like, this is good, like, movement is happening. But then in early 80s, the AIDS epidemic happened. And I think Amy can talk about that.
Well, first I'm going to talk about the criminalization and decriminalization of the community. So obviously, like you said, the whole criminalization idea of the LGBTQ community came from the Bible and strictly that of the Bible. There were other cultures. There's like tens of thousands of other cultures that normalize same-sex marriage, same-sex relationships. But the scrutiny facing the LGBTQ community dates back to 1290, when this section of Genesis in the Bible became popular amongst European unions within Catholic kingdoms. The Buggery Act of 1533 under King Henry V included many sexual offenses, such as the Act for the Punishment of the Vice of Buggery, punishable by death, passed as an Act of Parliament through King Henry V's reign. After the spreading and colonization of the British and European Empire, these laws were based purely on the Bible. In 1893, prohibition against cross-dressing for an improper purpose was enacted in Ghana. It took until 2018 for the law to eventually be repealed. So you weren't allowed to cross-dress in Ghana until 2018.
Really?
What?
Yes. To this day, 15 jurisdictions across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East still impose criminal sanctions against people whose gender expression does not align with their sex as assigned at birth. Let's move on to a more positive note, the decriminalization of it.
Please.
So Peru, of all countries, was one of the first countries to introduce the enactment of the 1924 Penal Code decriminalizing private, consensual, same-sex sexual activity. In 1957, the Wolfenden Report, published in the UK in 1957, I just said that, with disregard to conventional ideas of this day, recommended that homosexual behavior between consenting adults in private schools should no longer be a criminal offense. The committee determined that it was not the function of law to intervene with the private life of citizens and rejected the idea that homosexuality was a disease. It took 10 further years for the recommendations in the report to make their way into law to form the Sexual Offenses Act of 1967.
10 years is a lot
Yeah.
of time for laws to come into
Yeah.
place.
Yes.
That shows you how much power the government has to push things off for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Because they just don't want to deal with it. And then
Crazy.
you touched on the point of Canada. In 1969, the Criminal Law Amendment Act came into fruition, decriminalizing sodomy and cross indecency if done in private between two consenting adults. So there was still a catch. It was
If
only
done in
legal if it was
private.
done in private. What jurisdicts it being done in private?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Crazy.
Same-sex marriage was progressively introduced in several provinces and territories by court decisions beginning in 2003, before becoming legalized in 2005 through the Civil Marriage Act. Here's a fact that I actually did not know. On June 26, 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down all state bans on same-sex marriage, legalized it in all 50 states, and required states to honor out-of-state same-sex marriage licenses in the case Obergefell versus Hodges. So it only became fully legal in all 50 states in 2015.
2015.
Think about also how though, like, imagine being able to be in a state and like actually get legally married and be like, yippee, finally. And then I'm going to go over and cross down into like Louisiana. And they're like, no. And the fact that you had to take that to court at one point in time to be able to get full legality.
Well, that's just coming up on 10 years ago in all 50 states, which is
less
crazy.
than technically.
I think it's kind of crazy how long or like how far you have to take a case in the US for it to become federal and not state law.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
literally
also-
the Supreme Court.
but I also
literally
think
the highest
that
thing in the
the
whole
Supreme
world.
Court.
I also
Yeah.
think of that though because Canada only has like what 10 provinces,
Yeah.
three
Three
Like
territories.
we don't have
And the
50
courts are small as
states.
hell.
Yeah,
and we don't
exactly.
have the same laws whatsoever. It's
No.
not the same. Like,
Yeah.
they're-
Okay, so moving on to the AIDS crisis, I'm going to try to go through this quickly. So the AIDS epidemic caused by HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus, found its way into... Sorry, guys. That was
I have never read these words before.
found its way in the United States between 1970s and 80s, first noticed after doctors discovered clusters of here it is again. Kapocysis.
You got it.
Kapocysis, sarcoma, and pneumocytosis, pneumonia. I got that one. In
That's why Amy was
men.
never a doctor.
Yeah.
That's
why.
That's why. She can't pronounce it. She could do it. She could do it. She just can't pronounce
I
it.
can point at it and go, that one.
That one.
So anyways, in homosexual men in Los Angeles, New York City, and San Francisco in 1981. Overview: the disease AIDS first appeared and rapidly became an epidemic among homosexual men, drug users who also shared needles, blood transfusion patients, and women with infected sexual partners who were also at risk of contracting AIDS. So it's a immunodeficiency disease.
Yeah. Did you also know that? Sorry. Continue.
Okay.
Definitely just say it at this point.
Okay,
You know what? Never mind.
I was just going to say.
Sentence.
Okay, well then she has one more sentence.
This is how the epidemic was turned into a problem surrounding the gay community and forcibly impaired the community with stigma surrounding the disease and the queer community as a whole. So it was pretty much just like assigned onto the queer community because there was just a fluctuation in homosexual men when really it was anyone who could get this disease.
Yeah, including women.
Yes, absolutely.
There
are lots of women with HIV.
Huge ignored part of the topic, I feel like, is that so many women are also affected by AIDS.
I also find it interesting that they identified it as women with infected sexual partners, referring to a heterosexual relationship.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay. Well, it goes both ways.
It does go both ways.
Yeah.
Anyone can get HIV.
Yes.
Anyone. Originally, it was called GRID. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Yeah.
Which stands for like gay-related immune deficiency.
Which
That's crazy. That's insane. That's insane.
So nuts to think about.
I know.
Hello?
And so like you were saying, like I feel like in the community it was related to like the gay disease, which also I feel like is part as to why it went on for so long because the doctors and the government wouldn't take it seriously. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was just I feel like we just have a little bit more time. We only just have a little bit more time before we throw it to our song. I just wanted to knock off a little bit more history in terms of acceptance for coming more into the mainstream out from the underground. And generally speaking, we were talking about gay bars earlier. For a lot more of those like bigger cities like San Francisco or New York, gay bars really did have like such a more prevalent existence in the gay community in terms of having it as like safe havens for LGBTQ plus people to, be without fear of judgment or persecution.
Be with a community.
Yeah, exactly. But also, as we said, came with risks, police raiding. Again, if you lived in any one of those big cities, not only was this a safe haven, but in the same time, you were in no way guaranteed from risk, basically. But also, I'd like to add that the rise of queer dating apps, of like LGBTQ dating apps, things like Grindr, things like that, launching in 2009, just kind of paved the way for like other apps, but also in general offered queer individuals in more displaced environments the opportunity to connect with each other, which is kind of fun to think about. It's something with the internet that we would have like. That's such a different, I feel like pinpoint to the history of like mainstream queerness in general, and just like having
I think shows like RuPaul's Drag Race also.
I was just about to say representation in media. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
people like Ellen DeGeneres, or even things like now more things like Pose or like Heartstopper. Just like the idea of having more queer stories at the front of the conversation generally. Also just bigger networks like taking risks on letting those stories be told really positively contributes to or at least positively contributes in the sense that a lot more people in the queer community now are less in like the underground scene and are more so able to live their lives openly and freely. And a lot of these times these things, like for example media, get the chance for people to discuss these things with like little, like you get the chance to talk about oh my god, why am I like actually seen. Thank you, save me.
And like the 21st century.
It's like Porky Pig. Yeah, but
I don't think about that.
No. I think it's time for a song.
for a song.
It is ready for a
Oh my God,
another one.
That's actually such a good song because it's very like
Cool.
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 Feeling refreshed.
So with that, we're gonna throw it to our song break.
We're gonna throw this one to Demi Lovato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it away, Demi.
When we come back, we'll have a special guest for you.
Very special.
Bye.
And we are back. We are here with someone very, very special. I'm going to give a quick little intro, but they need no introduction. Host of Queer and Pop Culture Show. Next in queue, and our favorite RT Gay. Please welcome Sarra Gilliani.
Yes. Hi, I'm Sarra.
Yeah. Hi guys.
But this is our first like kind of guest interview that we've gotten to have on the show, and it feels really great for our queer dating a new Air of Acceptance episode.
Yes.
Because none of us are gay.
None of us are gay, actually. Yeah, you guys are lacking a little bit in the representation.
Yeah, so we thought, who better to have on than
Our favorite RT gay.
Our favorite RT gay.
Our favorite RT gay.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's really exciting.
Yeah.
Of course.
So I have a couple questions for you.
Morg, let's
We're sharing a mic, so this is going to be really... Okay, well, this is not my fault. Blame Alan Slate. Sarra, as a queer artist, how do you think art has and will impact the progression of acceptance?
I don't think Mike
so dramatic.
I think... Okay, repeat the question.
As a queer artist, how do you think art has and will impact the progression of acceptance?
I think that, like, in terms of... It's so weird.
What? What are you talking about?
Are we?
What are you talking about? You're getting
Chatting. We're chit-chatting.
I think that art is really important to, like, acceptance of anybody that you don't really understand in general. I feel like you can be opened up to so many more cultures, and with that, like, subcultures. So I think that, like, I know Anne was talking a little bit about, like, TV. I think that has helped a lot of people. Even if you're thinking about, like, really basic stuff, like, let's say Modern Family. Like, they did like, a big...
Mitch and Cam.
Actually, now that you mention that, I feel like, okay, Modern Family put queer dating on the map for boomers and millennials.
Yeah.
Because that was like one of the first shows that I heard my mom and dad like
talking
these
about.
super old boomers that had never really like had never really consumed gay media, and then seeing Mitch and Cam and them being hilarious, the funniest people I've ever seen on like cable television.
I love them.
And just like cracking jokes left and right. And then the fact that they also like, it's like first episode they adopted Lily too.
Yeah.
So it really normalized it not only for us but our parents as well, because they had never really seen anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for like older generations, especially in like if you're thinking about like cable television.
Yeah. I'm even Glee is even coming to mind right now.
Yeah.
For me, where I'm like, of course, like this is like more than just like, and now we're getting outside of just like queer topics. Now it's like disabilities or like anyone else. But I'm also just like, I feel like Glee was also like one of my at least first like exposures to like to feeling like, oh my god, like this show is so over the top and ridiculous, but it's somehow also normalizing like things that I feel like I've never seen on television before.
I think Glee single-handedly brought to life every gay theater kid.
Oh,
that could have
100%.
ever
Yeah.
like,
Even in Grey's Anatomy, I remember like I started that really young, and I remember like Callie, Arizona, like she's also like
Shonda Rhimes.
Shonda Rhimes.
Shonda Rhimes.
So true.
Actually, before we go on, did you want to like move over maybe a little bit, because I feel like the mic is like in front of your face on the cam, just for
Can't
future
see anybody right
Is
now.
better?
Go onto their cam.
I'd also like to say, like, there's shows like Degrassi
Yeah, that's good.
that are like more geared towards children. Now, the things that happen to Degrassi are absolutely insane, but their tagline is Degrassi. We go there.
Is it really?
Go there.
Yes, because the craziest things happen on that show.
Wasn't
But-
Drake on it?
Yes, Drake was on it, and he
Speaks for itself.
was in a wheelchair for some of it. 'cause
Oh
he
my
got-
god.
Guys, I have a
It's fine.
shirt of Drake in a wheelchair.
Stop.
I do.
Oh my
I love
god.
that.
But anyway, Degrassi did feature like quite a few gay relationships, which I think is important, especially when it's geared towards younger children. Just to like seeing that when you're a kid on a show that you like.
It's also interesting being in a media program like with the like not the resurgence but like the popularity of gay media coming in, because this is like I feel like for years before us, or even like think of like people that were in third year like 8 years ago or something, they were not really, I feel like they weren't really having
at least not mainstream wise. I know what
like
you're saying.
they weren't, you know what I mean? Like they weren't talking and like theorizing about how much of an impact gay media has on the community, and also people that aren't part of the community, because like now that media is such like that is our main point of consumption.
Yeah.
That like, you know, everyone is consuming it every single day 24/7, and like that is coming up a lot more often. So just having that in front of your face and consuming it is so much more of a whole other topic.
Yeah, there's so many platforms now, like like films, shows, podcasts.
Next in Q, Wednesdays at 11 a.m. on Spirit Live.
Yeah.
But I also think that like even the stuff we mentioned like is catered to
Talking to the
is
microphone,
catered to a very like specific audience, and like is usually just white gay male representation.
Yeah.
So there have been a lot of shifts, and even if we're talking about within our own program, like if we're looking at practicum projects, every year there are 2 or 3 queer practicum projects, which is great because like then that gives queer artists a chance to like work together
And tell their own stories too.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for the queer ones that are happening this year because I know the people who are running.
Yeah, Back to the Closet.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And the fact it's a musical too.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
No, that's so fun.
Has that ever been done as a practice? Has a musical ever been done?
I'm sure they've done a
Oh,
musical.
I'm
but
sure.
Yeah, but that's like
That's so
that's such a
exciting.
cool concept.
There's
I
a-
love
Yeah.
And there's also Sweetwater as well as another
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
project.
I wanted to work on that.
yeah.
Isn't it one
Yeah,
about
that's
like
gonna be good.
Stonewall? Like I'm literally barely remembering their blurb, but wasn't it like about?
No, Sweetwater was like a pastor's daughter was
Yeah.
falling in love with another girl, and there was
It's like a time.
Tension.
It's a timepiece. Timepiece.
Timepiece.
Time period.
I was literally like, yeah, for sure. I'll drive behind you.
anything you say, we're like, yeah.
Yes.
There was that brings into Sarah, did you ever do theater?
I did marketing for theater, which I think is more nerdy than doing theater.
I was about to say doing like on stage theater is already like a certain level of like cringe, and I feel like doing something super niche, like but like God bless, like literally like God bless, like all the power to you. But doing something small like events or something for like specifically for theater, I'm like, I know what you're about. I can see it.
I bring that up because musicals and theater has been a very big part of the LGBTQ community for a very long time. Like Angels in America, which is a fantastic 7-hour play about the AIDS crisis. Rent is also about the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
I had to read Angels in America in grade 12.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah, but it's fantastic.
It's fantastic. You guys should watch it. If you've ever seen look up Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield
Oh my
and
God.
Angels in America on YouTube. You can watch a bootleg.
Yeah.
He's in it. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
watching
totally. He
it
did like a whole
tonight.
stint on
I'm watching
Broadway.
it tonight.
He does the most fantastic job in it.
He's brilliant.
The most
Of course.
fantastic job. But
Leaves it all on the floor.
yeah,
Of course.
but there's just so much. There's a lot of like rich history in the LGBTQ community in theater, musical theater.
There are lots of different subcultures. Like even right now, I'm studying what. There we go. Okay.
There you go. It's just because like once you
What
lean
you can't
into
see
it,
is Amy
then
going,
you're like,
She's like,
hiding here, and you're like, LGBT. You can't see anything. Sorry.
Yeah, there are lots of different subcultures within the LGBTQ community, and right now, like I'm working towards an LGBTQ minor in LGBTQ studies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, you could do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
they
didn't know
just
that was-
started it like 2 years ago.
Classes do you have to take for that?
It's like a bunch of different ones. Like right now, this is a history class, but the whole point is that it's a multidisciplinary minor.
I do remember seeing elective options
Yeah.
for kind of like LGBTQ studies or like LGBTQ history, stuff like that. Yeah.
There are lots of really cool ones. I really like the history classes. But right now, like the project I'm working on for my final project is like queer subculture in 1970s like disco.
Ooh. Oh, that's fun.
Disco.
Oh, that's
So I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
I love that.
Zisco! I can't get enough. Can't get enough of it.
I love
Zisco.
Bring disco back, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm bringing disco back. I feel like.
Yes.
Starts in the middle of
Like,
it.
release this project because it's like a podcast project too. So I'm excited about it.
Oh my gosh.
Shameless plug.
Yeah,
You-
plug.
Sarah, do you think, as an as an RT
As an artist,
gay,
That's where that was
do you
going.
do you think that RTA could include more like LGBTQ media classes?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do you
Yeah.
feel about like
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
or
we
not
have
even that?
none.
I want to get a vibe of like what your thoughts on are just on the general program like culture.
Yeah.
I'm like
Ooh, yes.
I mean,
More.
I think RTA, like,
into it.
for, like, the first, like, half of my first year, I was like, everybody's straight, and I hate it.
Yeah, you know what? I thought that as well. I thought every single one of my friends was straight, and then like halfway through first year, I was like, "You guys straight?
seem a
Every
little
single one
bit-
of them are bi." And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah.
I was gonna say the opposite. I feel like literally coming here, I feel like this is a very art school, and like I came from like literally
Half
like
of us were in theater before this.
no, yeah, exactly.
Well, I think because
I
I
was
didn't
music
come
theater.
out of theater, so I kind of didn't have anything to like base anything off of in terms of like how straight or queer our program was. I didn't even think of that.
I know, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like my high school was rather mixed bag
Really?
in terms of I
Mine
mean that's
was
Toronto
not.
for you. So
Mine
Me
was
too.
white straight people who play hockey.
yeah.
Yeah.
My theater program was a bit more diverse. My school in
Yeah.
general, high school in Calgary, Alberta, not very diverse.
No.
But the theater program there
Yeah.
was more hope.
But Sarah, please.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from Ottawa, so, like, my high school, like, it was an IB school, so there were kids from all over the city, and everyone was, like, a bisexual, like, person of color that I knew,
Gotcha.
essentially, which was pretty awesome. My principal was gay. Like,
Lit.
it was kind of great to be, like, around that many queer people all the time,
Yeah.
especially queer people of color.
So you thought it was like a different, like you didn't see
Yeah.
that coming here.
I came here, and I also lived on residence, and it was like, for the most part, a lot of people on residence were white.
Res will do that. I was gonna say Pittman will do that too. I feel like, or whatever it is. I was like, that's It's
Yeah.
also gonna give like uncomfortably heterosexual, like straight, like oh, like my apartment with 4 bros. We're all hosting on this Friday. Come in your crappiest crop top. Like it's very much.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. I literally think that like TMU doesn't give that vibe though. Is that just me?
What?
Of like the heterosexual, like super like gay. Sorry, not super gay.
Heterosexuals,
Mega gay.
Mega gay guys. Mega gay guys. No, just like, super like masculine like bros.
I think
what?
there's definitely pockets for it.
I think there are pockets.
That's what I was about to say, because I personally because I don't have an arts background, and like arts was not a huge thing at my school. We didn't have a very well-funded program. Coming here, I came in with more of like everybody's the same, and like everyone's gonna be friends with everyone. But as you go through RTA and you get access to other creative school students, and then you see people who are in like the regular like science disciplinaries or
Yeah.
like English, not English, like science
Not
disciplinaries,
People in English are
engineering.
gay.
But even just
Yeah.
but even just a stone's throw to like sport media.
Yes.
Like that's what I'm saying. I'm like that's what I mean when I say that there's pockets. I'm like
Yeah, no,
Even
I
that'll do it
definitely
too.
feel
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you feel differently, but I feel like I've gotten to know so many more of my friends are part of the queer community, and like I love them so much. I love all my queer friends.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think.
But do you think that RTA could like use some more LGBTQ media classes?
Well, we don't have any in RTA.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a journalism queer media class, and there are queer media classes.
For IMA?
I don't think I am.
Oh, sorry, you're looking directly at the camera. It's so good. Every once in a while, Sarah will just like
Is it this one?
It's this one.
just completely like go.
Can we do a compilation of Sarah looking at the
I'm on it. I'm on it. Wait, I'm curious. So, like, what are those class? Like, what's like the outline of those courses for like the like journalism, like the LGBTQ? Like, what are the projects?
It's a great question. I haven't taken it yet.
Oh, there you go.
But I took like a queer art history class. It was like queer studies, race studies.
That would
and,
be
like,
art
feminist
history would
studies.
be really cool.
It was really, really cool because we like there was some film stuff in there, but a lot of it was just like paintings, and photography, and it was super sick to see all of that.
Paintings, especially, I feel like would be so interesting because it's like,
Well,
especially if they're
also-
ye olden paintings, you're like,
Especially if
damn,
they're-
someone took
that's
like
Leonardo-
ages and ages.
Especially if they're Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes.
But
Way to tie it in.
Yeah, because also like
Way to tie it in.
full circle
Full
moment.
circle, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any queer media classes. I know for a fact IMA does not. But
I had hope for
they
that,
have a
but-
very
they're very queer.
They have a very
Yeah.
queer, like big queer population.
Yeah,
So
Big queer.
the big queer population.
Mega queer. Mega queer. Big queer
what
pop.
are some classes that you think we could like incorporate into art? Because we kind of just have like theory and then like hands-on. There's no kind of like in between.
I think there is a lot of room for. I just wish our school had more room for experimentation within different genres that we're doing.
That's so true. I've even taken classes where like it says that they're doing a genre, and then you get there and they're not doing a genre. You're like,
Yeah.
Like
okay, I
dramatic
guess it's
writing?
another. Yes.
I was gonna say comedy writing.
Yeah.
My comedy writing still felt kind of specific. Like it still was like we still had to deliver assignments that were like restricted to.
But I think
the
it
structure?
also involves though like the professor like even when they're like you can do any genre you want, but like even introducing genres and
Yeah.
like you could do comedy, you could do something based on LGBTQ studies, like just saying that to your students gives them the option
Yeah.
and like gets them thinking about doing things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you hear everybody else is doing comedy and drama, you're like, well, maybe I should do comedy and drama.
That's so
Like
true.
you don't feel like there's that space
Yeah.
for you to jump into and make your own kind of art.
I also feel like our professors could just do a little bit like better at incorporating
Yeah.
queer theory or philosophy and stuff into
not in
our
the curriculum at
no,
all.
not
I
at
was gonna
all.
say, not even in a philosophy. It could literally just be like discussing like different examples of
Yeah, of
media,
queer media.
in the curriculum in
Like,
general.
in
Being
our-
like, watch something.
It
Hey,
doesn't have
what's
to be a
bad
full
about
class,
it?
just like incorporate.
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. In our interactive storytelling class, we did this interactive
yeah.
thing called Queering the Map, where people can like place little things at a certain point where something significant happened to
It's
them.
like a map where you can
Yeah.
put little pins basically,
Like stories
and write
or
a little
poems.
prompt being
Yeah.
like, "Here's where I had my first kiss."
I saw one where
Oh,
someone
like a
in
personal
the
map.
metro building, that was their very first time seeing like an out gay couple. It
Really?
was in
That's such
was
an
in metro.
interesting-
it was a really
Yeah, it's
interesting.
I
like,
would love to see that.
It was really
concept.
cool.
Yeah.
But our professor did a good job at like incorporating that and getting us to think about that.
and even just mentioning it alone, I
Yes.
feel like was such a
enough.
moment where we were like, "Oh,
Yeah. And in our
ally."
femi-
We were like, "Yes."
Ally.
in our feminist
Ally.
philosophy class,
Ally.
in our feminist philosophy class, we're about to start talking about trans philosophy, which I'm excited about.
And she's made a huge effort to
Yes.
incorporate all kinds of like
Yeah.
trans philosophy
Yeah.
into, or like just general theory into how to, go about gender abolition or whatever it is. Like, I'm just like, it's been an option where like I feel like we've had a good choice of professors this semester who have been kind of throwing things our way.
But that just goes to show that our professors could do a lot better. It doesn't have to be a queer media specific class for them
Yeah.
to incorporate that into their classes.
Yeah, and I think like
Maybe move the stand.
it really is
Yeah.
up to the professors, which is really unfortunate that it's not like in any curriculum because there are queer professors. Like in our first year, our media history professor was a queer woman.
Yes, she was.
Oh, and
she
she
did.
was
she made an
She
effort
did
to
a
talk
really good
about-
job.
to talk about
but she
radio.
talked about it like the last class. I remember she kind of put it up. Like I think we knew that she was.
I remember she
said it in
dropped
her
a photo
intro.
of like her girlfriend and her cat on her like intro
Yeah.
slides day
But
one.
that was like the only time we saw her.
Yeah.
didn't
I
have any
remember
class.
there were like some classes that were about like the history of radio in like lesbian spaces in Canada, which I thought was really
so
interesting.
sick.
And
And she had all
like,
kinds of resources too, no?
Yeah.
I swear, like, I remember her doing, like, a full, like, here's all these different, like, queer, like, podcasts and outlets you can talk to. Like, it was, anyway.
Yeah. So it sucks because it is really up to the professor. And if a professor doesn't know or doesn't care, then you're not going to get any of that
Yeah.
education.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like, I have like Professor Lori Beckstead, who is
great.
a lot of audio classes. She's great.
She's great.
Yeah. She has
She
fun
makes
there.
an effort to like talk about Indigenous rights at the beginning of every single class and
Yeah.
always does a land acknowledgement and like tells us different things
Yeah.
about like she's not
It's not just like
repeating the same
reading
thing
like a
over and
slide.
over
Yeah.
I've noticed that actually. Yeah, that like this is I guess just like a little bit off topic, but in first year, a lot of my courses, a lot of my professors did a land acknowledgement at the beginning.
Yeah.
But now that I've
Not
gone
at all.
on, nothing. I don't think we have any.
We have it in media audiences.
Yes.
We have it in. I have it in children's
But she
programming.
stands. But she
Yeah,
stands
Tatiana
for
will
it.
in our class.
Yeah.
But like
Tatiana still does it in children's programming.
Shout out Tatiana for
Morgan, do you have another question?
More dating questions, maybe?
More dating questions?
Ooh.
Okay.
I can.
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
Don't take the heat off. You.
Yeah, I more so have more about acceptance, but
More accept than whatever.
But we can go to dating.
but we can talk about dating.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to do dating.
on our dating show.
We can talk about
Yeah.
Seriously.
that is true.
It's so true. I was kind of gonna ask about, soon we're hoping to touch on later down the line in our episodes, we're hoping to do a bit on like non-monogamous relationships and like polyamory in general, and how clearly this connects to the queer community. I feel like so much more with this episode. And I'm kind of curious to like when your relationship with that like kind of like expanded in terms of like when you were established enough in the community to have like more of experience to just dip your toe in the water of like knowing people who are involved in this, or just more of hearing about it, or just kind of like what your general like take is on that idea, because we're gonna rope it in later. We'd love to have like an idea from you.
I think that's really cool that you guys are doing an episode on that, because I think that it isn't really talked about as much, or it's just starting to get talked about now. And obviously there are a lot of people who are monogamous, and it's kind of like the culture that we're raised in. I don't personally, I'm trying to think if I know anybody who's like
Polyamorous?
Polyamorous.
I know, like,
I do, and they will be coming on the show when we talk about monogamy. Yeah.
Okay, that's really cool.
Or even just honestly there's something probably we'll get more. I would say something more like, for example, like we are curious into, for example, like I know with some of my queer friends how it's much more of a culture to like have like a little like hook up or like get together or get to know each other or even date for a bit, and then this idea that you can still go back to being totally normal in terms of like having that close community where like you're close with your with your like people in your community, in the sense that there's a limited amount of us, and I'm gonna try to be as nice to as many of us as we can.
Yeah.
To keep that solidarity.
yeah. Do you think like heterosexual or like people are less inclined to have polyamorous relationships succeed than like queer people?
I feel like, I don't know if it's like an effort thing. Like, I feel like there aren't that many like heterosexual couples who are like talking about it as much, because of like the map that everybody has of like what a relationship should be. So I think it kind of comes down to like the stigma around it. Because like if you were thinking about like I don't see that as much in my friends who are like queer women, but in my friends who are like queer men, like that is more of a conversation to like still be around people who like you've hooked up with, or like still hang out with, like still be in the same circles and be able to like be chill about that.
Do you think that, because even when you think about that in heterosexual relationships, it's kind of like to kind of split it, I guess, into man and woman, when women are seen like, I guess, having an affair or anything, or potentially trying out a polyamorous relationship, immediately scrutinized and like held against them very deeply. And I think that's like, dare I say, like deeply rooted in how women go about relationships, queer or straight. And like in terms of men, when they are scrutinized for, I guess, like having an affair or trying out a non-monogamous relationship, then it's like the scrutiny lasts for like a week and then done. So do you think, I mean, that might have an impact? Because I feel the same way that a lot of the friends, like a lot of my queer friends that I've had that are men, have had a non-monogamous relationship that is successful, and then I don't hear about it as often on a female side or a they/them side, and and then but I just like it's just like, it's like not as common.
Sorry, they/them side took me. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really interesting conversation. I'm excited to see what your friend says about it as well.
I have my friends. Sorry,
The
let me take this away from you.
Were you
sorry.
silenced or were you silent? Literally silencing queer people.
No! the mic away from me. What the heck?
Have it back. My friends who are one of my friends who are coming in the show, they're like polyamorous relationship, from what I know, works out very well. And they like it's just what works for them.
Yeah.
They've talked to me about it before. They're just like, I get some things from some people, and the things that I don't get from that person, I get from other people. And they love it. They have so much fun. They're so comfortable with what they with all of their relationships. And I've met a lot of their partners, and they're all wonderful and fantastic. They are all part of the LGBTQ community, which I think lends to the idea that, like, I feel like heterosexual, like, open relationships, when you hear your heterosexual friends that are like, oh, like, me and my boyfriend are opening up our relationship, you go, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's kind of like, are you guys both on the same page about that?
Yeah. I feel like we can talk more about that, like, next episode
for sure, yeah.
Or whenever we do that. It's already 59.
Is there a reason why? Stop. With that, let's wrap it up, I think.
Yeah, any closing remarks?
I did. I had like a question though, but like
we have 30 seconds.
Then never mind. I was just gonna talk about how like being in a queer relationship, like have you like, I don't know, because I feel like there's a society's like harder on gay men sometimes just because of that whole like toxic masculinity, and like a lot of heterosexual men will fetishize gay relationships, you know, I feel, and like between two females, you know, rather than like fetishize like, because like heterosexual men don't get anything from like seeing two gay men.
It's okay.
How do you feel about that?
In one word, 3, 2, 1.
One word.
I don't know.
Go.
Bad?
Question mark?
Icky.
Okay.
Question mark?
And
Question
with that, that has been this week's episode of Bae Watch. That's been this week's episode of Bae Watch. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I am Anne with Jacqueline and Amy and Morgan and our special guest, Sarra. Thanks so much for coming in.
Do you want to plug your
plug your
stuff
radio
really
show.
quickly?
really quick?
Yes. Listen to Next in Q. It's Wednesdays at 11 a.m. And you can follow us at listen2 Next in Q on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I never post, but you can follow.
One day.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week at the same time, same place. Fridays at 12. Thanks so much.